Hey, Hewitt. Hi. So you see this little tactic that I decided to warm you up with to get you to love my talk early on. But I just wanted to thank the Hewitt School and Sophia Stafford for inviting me to be here. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here as a former all-girls school graduate from St. Timothy's School in Stevenson, Maryland. I feel the energy and the love here, and I'm really excited about the great work that is being done. So you see this picture of me, I think it's around 1982, when I was a little baby living in South Carolina. And the reason that I brought this picture here is that I've really started to learn in terms of our conversation about dreaming, about the importance of keeping a child's mind when I think about dreams, or I think about that nagging voice in my head that tells me that I'm not enough, or that I can't do something, or that sets limits. I think about her, and I think about her face, and I always know that I can do anything because I know that she believed that she could do anything. And I wanted to share this picture with you, one, to show you how far I've come. Grown quite a bit since then. But two, to remind you to live with your child mind and to understand that maybe you might set out and have a dream and have a very specific focus like I did, and find that that dream will change, but it'll be the right thing, and it's important to reimagine that dream. So like I said, I'm Jamia Wilson, and I'm an activist, feminist media activist, a storyteller, and an organizer. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what it was like to live a life thinking that I was going to do something and realizing that, for me, spirit had a better plan, or the energies of the universe that really made sense of my purpose and my specific gifts. I'm a Southern girl who grew up in Saudi Arabia, which is another story and another talk that I could give at a different time. But I grew up there as an expatriate, and then ended up going to high school in the outskirts of Baltimore at St. Timothy's. For those of you who've gone to independent all-girls schools, you will appreciate this picture on our graduation day that I used. But the school that I attended was started by blue stocking feminists. And I feel that being in that environment of inquiry and open ideas, and also knowing that we came from a legacy of strong, independent women, really contributed to me devoting my life to feminism today. But while I was at St. Timothy's, sometimes it was really difficult for me because I was one of only 12 African American students at the school. And sometimes when we would have people speak to us as role models, I wouldn't necessarily see myself being able to achieve some of the things that the people who would come speak to us would. And I remember going on a field trip to a nearby school, Goucher College, and seeing Bell Hooks, who is a feminist superhero for me. And thank you, I love Bell Hooks. And when I saw Bell Hooks, it really showed me that there was this possibility that one could live their life as a progressive voice and an academic voice in the media, that there needed to be no sacrifice for substance, that you could actually be out there with real talk and real ideas and make a change just by changing hearts and minds through your voice. And I gained that from her. And by seeing her, not that I didn't learn from these other role models, but by seeing her, I really saw I could be that. And I remember writing in my diary that one day I want to be a public voice for change, for equality, and for justice. Because I've always loved to talk, and I've always loved to tell stories. So I want to find a way to make a living doing that. And I can tell you honestly that when I met Bell Hooks that day, I never thought that I would be in front of a room of great people like you and talking to an intergenerational audience about my vision, my passion, and my dreams for the community. And I say that in terms of our conversation about dreaming, because I think that it was even beyond my dreams at the time that this could be possible, that I could be living my passion. And now I spend most of my days tweeting, speaking, and talking about feminism, and it feels great. It's actually wonderful to know that maybe I'm not as published as Bell Hooks, but I'm able to still share these ideas and also be a role model for young women who don't get to see people who look and experience life like themselves doing work, and know that there's support and that changing their idea of what's possible, because she did that for me. After high school, I attended American University, where I could be found at every protest imaginable. That was my weekend activity when I was in college. And when I went there with the purpose of studying to be a broadcast journalist. like I said, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and Christiana Manpour was my shiro. I wanted to be a wartime correspondent. I thought that she just had that really, really sharp, cool-headed approach, that speaking truth to power while also seemingly being an objective reporter at the same time, but always knowing that she was on the side of justice through her work, that I really wanted to be a part of. And it was during this time that I really came to see that people often can't be what they can't see in the media, and I wondered how a person like me could actually get into a role like that, even if I'd gone through the broadcast journalism program and taken all the classes, because I didn't really see people who were embodied in the way that I was being reflected on a large scale in the media with that sort of platform. And during college, I started going back and forth with these struggles about, can I really do this? Do I have what it takes? Do I have the contacts? Do I have the network? Do I really want to move to a small town in a really cold state and work there for 12 years reporting on weather to then try to be a wartime correspondent? Is this dream really worth it to me? I like warm weather. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. And I would have these thoughts. And in the meantime, while I was thinking about this and still being focused on media, I found myself getting immersed in activism and doing internships at women's organizations, becoming an executive board member of our Choice USA chapter on campus, and realizing that maybe there was a different calling for me. But at that time, I didn't know that my dream could be as expansive as thinking that media activism could be a possibility, that I could merge my passions for media with activism and social justice. It didn't occur to me that I could have this career that I knew that I wanted. So I decided at that point that I had all these credits in the communications department, and I didn't want to stay and do a 5-year plan. Well, actually, my parents said that wasn't going to be a possibility. So I ended up deciding that I was going to switch the broadcast journalism major, and also for another reason that I'll get to later, and do public communications, because it would allow me to use my skills of communications in some amorphous way yet to be seen. But I wasn't confident enough to really think about creating my own thing at that point yet, because I hadn't seen it being done. But I did come to realize in the deepest hearts of hearts that I wasn't really interested in focusing solely on impartial reporting. That really wasn't my thing, and I kind of knew based on my personality that I'm kind of an opinionated person at heart. I really like to take sides, and I knew that there was probably going to be a different path for me. So I put the media to the wayside, and I started working at Planned Parenthood as their national youth organizer. I worked for their political arm, and I also worked for NYU and Women's Media Center Now, with several other social justice organizations in between. But one of the constants that I've realized was a part of each of those experiences is that telling my story was the way that I connected with people. As an organizer, telling my story, connecting to people with heart values, and using real talk, hashtag real talk as I like to call it, was always the way that I would get people to be engaged in the issues that I cared about. And I still, deep in my heart, knew that I wanted to go for that. I just didn't know how. But the beautiful part about life is that sometimes things will come together even though you don't see how they are going to along the way. And 10 years after I had that experience of not really knowing that I could do both of the things I like to do, I am now working at Women's Media Center as VP of Programs, where I train women and girls to be media commentators and to be media savvy and media ready. And several of the people who've been a part of our training are in this audience today. And it really showed me that just living my life and telling my story, no matter what position that I was in, brought me to where I needed to be. And now I'm in a position to help other people feel more confident about owning their expertise and telling their own stories on their own terms. And I really share my story because underserved and underrepresented people are often left out of the public debate, often left out of the conversation. And I really feel like it's my calling to bring us from the margins to the center, as well as to elevate consciousness about our experiences so that the history books really reflect the work that we've done while we're here. And another reason that this work is important is that we're often force-fed a narrative that promotes a limited definition of womanhood. We receive these cultural, social, and often political messages that really undercut our value and tell us that our value is based on our ability or inability to fit into a narrow, beauty, and youth-focused ideal rather than to lead, teach, transform, and spark change. So I also personally, when I start to feel that fear creeping up into my head that ugly nudging of the sincere voice telling me that I can't do something, I remember that I wasn't able to imagine myself in a position like this to be speaking on the Today Show and talking to people about feminism back then. And then exactly a year from now to this month, I was on the Today Show with Gloria Steinem and Letty Pobregan and Abigail Pobregan talking about feminism and 40 years of Ms. Anniversary. And really being able to, in that moment while sitting in the chair talking to Huda and Kathy Lee, where I was saying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here, in my head, thinking, wow, I have a chance right now not only to talk about why everyone should be a feminist and why it's important, why feminism is alive in spite of the obituaries that they post in the magazines every year about our work on equality, that I knew that there would be young women who would be able to see themselves in me and that they would re-envision and reimagine what they could be. And for me, that's been my greatest accomplishment thus far. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of dreams is that about a year ago, I went to a conference at the UN Status of Women, and I met a South African woman who told me about a concept of Ubuntu. And she really, I love that. Most people have me needing to explain to them what Ubuntu is. And being a part of this experience with her and learning about this concept of Ubuntu really taught me that maybe I needed to reevaluate my dreams and my goals about promoting storytelling and doing this work, because I realized that this was about this concept that was as old as humanity, but also about promoting equality in a sense of preserving human dignity for all people. And Ubuntu, for those who don't know it, even though I know this crowd knows what it is the concept that I am because you are, I am because we are, and because we all are. And I realized during that I really wanted to reevaluate my goals and re-envision what I was going to dedicate myself to doing. And here's just some more slides of the media landscape that we have here. And I really thought about how growing up, I was often told that I needed to be skinnier, have lighter skin, or have straighter hair to be accepted or to be a media presence. And I was told by a white male professor who was considerably older than myself that I had no ability to be in the media, even though I was articulate and had a young face so I could have a long shelf life in the field, because I wouldn't straighten my hair and refused to conform to the standards that he felt were appropriate for a black woman on TV. And through that experience, I really learned that because of him, even though I had those other reasons I explained for leaving my broadcast journalism major, he was actually the real impetus for why I changed, because he made me feel like I couldn't be who I wanted to be. And so now, even though I love the work that I do for women and the training work that I am blessed to do every day with Women's Media Center, I'm most passionate about the work that I do working with girls and young women, because I really believe that we have to start early on to work with young women and girls to talk about the fact that women are treated as ornaments and not instruments in the media. We are sexualized in the media. We are defined in the media in a way that doesn't represent our real powerful lives and our voices. And it's now my dream to share the messages that I've learned and to work with these young women before they get to the point where I was, where someone's naysaying words could give them a decade of exploration where they had to come back to find themselves and realize that they have everything they need right now, that they are enough, that they have the magic to tell their real lives, their real stories, and their real intentions for the world with power. And no matter what they look like, no matter what magazines tell them they should look like, how much they should weigh, that they are powerful. And I wanted to leave you with this picture of Rookie Magazine's team, which is an online teen magazine that I write with, and it's become one of my new passions as well, because I've really learned so much from all the women and girls who are a part of that team, and it's really helped reinvigorated me to find that child again, and her voice and her courage. And I just ask all of you to remain courageous, and I look forward to all of the dreams that you will allow to come true for yourself, despite any naysaying, because I am, because you are, because we are. Thank you.